Hey world, and welcome to my September wrap-up. I have actually read quite a few books in the month of September, so let's just get right into it. The first one I read in the month of September was a German one, and it's Kalt wie Schnee, hart wie Eisen by my favorite author of all time, Jenny Mai Nguyen. I just love this woman so much. I don't know how many times I've talked about her now, but she's just so good. She is so fucking good. She knows what she's doing. Her fantasy worlds are just so well thought out. She does like multiple points of view a lot of the times, and she did in this one. So basically you have the princess who has been kind of forced to leave her kingdom, and then you have the elf warrior who has been fighting the king, but also is kind of at war with the humans because like elves and humans aren't getting along, but they did fight the king together, and she's like conflicted about that. And then you have one of the leaders of the humans actually, but he doesn't agree with how humans do things, and he then also falls in love with the princess, but the elf is in love with him, and it's just the points of view are so good, and they connect so well, and the fantasy world is so well done, and the plot twists are just and then she has metaphors, and she has like real world stakes, and she has magic, and I cannot express how much I adore this author, and this book was fantastic and I loved it. It was a wonderful start to the month, and I adore her so much. She is perfect, and every single time I read her books I'm reminded of why I love her so much. After that I read Blackout, which I don't have with me because I got it from work and my other colleague is reading it now. But basically Blackout is sort of an anthology of like different authors, all of which are female and black. And it's this story of how the entirety of New York is facing a blackout for almost an entire day. All the lights are out, all the electricity is dead, and we have like one main story that works throughout the entire book, and then the different authors write like one short story each that is somehow connected to that main story. I'm gonna be completely honest, I was a little bit disappointed, and sadly most of that was because I just did not connect with that one main storyline. I just didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it, and basically anytime that one came up I wanted to just go back to the other short stories, and there were some really great short stories in there. Some where I just wanted more of that, and then I was annoyed at the main story, and I just I didn't connect with it as much as I'd hoped. But as I said, some of the short stories were brilliant and amazing and funny, and most of them were romantic and kind of in a YA setting, and I really enjoyed it. It was adorable. As I said, there were quite a few where I did wish I'd had more of it. I'd wanted to see where the story goes. In general, in total, I think it's a brilliant collection. It is really sweet and adorable and funny, and there's a lot of diversity since we have different authors writing different stories, so you have like different main characters and different main themes within the stories. So I did really enjoy it, just not as much as I'd expected to. Feminists Don't Wear Pink and Other Lies, which is again an anthology collected by Scarlett Curtis. I also have the other book already, which is It's Not Okay to Feel Blue and Other Lies, which is about mental health, depression, that kind of thing. But Feminists Don't Wear Pink and Other Lies is a collection of essays, experiences, poems, short stories by different female authors, and it's kind of separated into different parts. So there's like anger, happiness, fear, the first realization of what feminism means. So you have like these different topics, and then you have different authors writing about their experience with it, their like different viewpoints. As I said, there's poetry, which was beautiful. So it's like really rich and diverse and interesting, and there's obviously some things that I'm already aware of, being a feminist myself, but obviously I'm a middle class privileged white woman, so like there's so many things I don't know. So it was really interesting to read all those different points of views on all those different topics that maybe I haven't thought about before. Since this is an English collection and most of the authors are American, there are quite a few topics or like quite a few specifics that don't apply to me as a German person, but it's still interesting to know this and to read how other people and how other countries function in specific contexts. So definitely 100% recommend picking this up. The next one is really specific, but I am gonna mention it. It's Demokratie für Einsteiger, which is just like this really short, tiny book for children that explains how German politics and voting in Germany works, because we just had a really big election last week. Really important. And voting is important and our voices matter, and I just wanted to make sure to like brush up my knowledge and make sure I know what I'm doing. I personally enjoy reading politics made for children because it is really complicated, and I'm not the most intelligent person when it comes to politics. I just don't understand a lot of the language. It's really complicated. I often feel like easy things are made more complicated simply by the language when it comes to politics. So yeah, I picked this up. It really helped me, and please go vote if you can. And the last non-fiction that I read is again a German one. It's called Aufblühen by Sarah Remski. I was actually gifted this by a friend a while back, and it's really gorgeous. It has these beautiful end papers and illustrations and photographs in between. It's just a really pretty book. I'm not doing a good job of showing it, but like it is really pretty. And basically it's sort of like a biography of this like young German woman who comes down with really severe depression towards the end of her university time, and she talks a lot about that and about dealing with mental health and with severe depression. But her main focus is that she found plants during that time, houseplants specifically, and taking care of plants really helped her, and it gave her a sense of purpose and a sense of life in her flat. And it's just a really interesting combination because it's kind of scientific in the way she explains the effect plants and taking care of plants can have. There's like loads of studies on that topic actually, and loads of scientific proof that taking care of houseplants can help your mental health. And then there's also like the really personal side of her struggling with her mental health and having to find ways to get better and deal with it. And it was a really nice experience to read it and to sit in my room, look at all my houseplants and be like, yeah, I know, it's great. The next book I picked up is again a German one, and it is Lux by Olivia Kolarewski. I actually picked this up because she just won the German prize for the best debut novel, and as a bookseller I actually got to be part of that event. I was selling books during her like prize ceremony. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, I was there as part of my job, and I got to meet her. She's a really, really lovely woman. She was super nice, and we had a nice chat. She signed it for me, and yeah, it was really cool. And I feel really guilty because I did not finish this book, and I'm probably never gonna finish this book because it's fucked up. In like a literary sense. It's beautifully written, it's really like important and intelligent, but it deals with topics that I just can't handle. There's a lot of self-harm, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of like self-harm in a mental capacity where the main character just really messes up her brain and lets other people mess up her brain, and it's just really unhealthy. And I know that that's the point, but I don't want to spend time with that. So as I said, it's really well written. I understand why she got this prize and why she won and why it's an important novel, but I do not want to spend time in that headspace. So I'm gonna keep the book, it's a nice memory, and as I said, she is a wonderful person and a really good author, but I'm not gonna finish it. And then I read a bunch of graphic novels and manga that I'm just gonna quickly go through. I enjoyed all of these, I really like them. I'm just gonna quickly mention them. So we have Goldilocks, Wanted, Dead or Alive by Chris Colfer, which is a graphic novel set in the Land of Stories world, based on Goldilocks and what happens during the time where she isn't in the novels. And it was just a really nice, fun addition to get more into her character. Then I read the second part of There's No Future in This Love, which is a manga about different relationships, and the main focus is on a trans character. It was really interesting, however I do think it could have gone more in depth. I think the relationships and dynamics between the characters were actually more important and more like fleshed out than the trans and queer storyline, and that's not what I expected, but I still enjoyed it. Then I also read the final part of Unsere Farben, which is a manga by the same person who did My Brother's Husband. I mentioned before that I enjoyed that series more than I did this. It was cute and sweet, and it's more of a coming out story, but I stand by the point that the other series, My Brother's Husband, is just more interesting to me. Then I read Mermaid Prince by Kaori Ozaki, which is a collection of, I think, 3 short manga, and it was really beautiful. The art style is wonderful, the stories are really interesting. Again, I would have liked more, but I do actually think that the short format works for them, so even though I would have liked more, I understand why they're short stories. And yeah, it was just a really, really nice time I spent with this manga. And then I read the Spider-Man graphic novel about Miles Morales, and this is a storyline, a short storyline in Miles Morales' life, where there's an earthquake in Puerto Rico, where his family comes from, and he basically tries to help both as Spider-Man and as Miles Morales, and it's kind of about him juggling that responsibility and those two lifestyles, and it's really, really personal and also a beautiful art style and just a really interesting look into his character. And the final book I want to talk about is Finding Chica by Mitch Albom. I took off the dust jacket, probably should have gotten that before I talked about it. But yeah, Finding Chica by Mitch Albom is the book I just finished, like literally 2 minutes ago. And it reminded me of why I usually take an entire day off to read his novels. because boy does the man know how to make me cry. Oh! It's a really intense story, and it's non-fiction, so it's all real. And basically Mitch Albom is in charge of a children's shelter in Haiti, where a lot of children, yeah, just go after their parents die most of the time, which is already tough. And there's this one little girl called Chico who has a brain tumor and they can't help her there. So Mitch Albom and his wife take her to them, to America, to hope that American doctors can help better, but they can't, and it starts with her ghost coming back to him because she died, and her ghost basically asking him to please tell her story. And oh my god, if you can't tell from like that description, it's so emotional. It's actually also really sweet because he goes back and forth between like that really tough time and struggling and dealing with the sadness and the loss and just, oh, this terrifying, really intense story of a child dying under your care. Oh god, I'm almost gonna start to cry again. But he also goes back to like the beginnings and her happy childhood and how bright she is and how full of life she is, even though there's like terrible things happening around her and her mom died. And even when she does get sick, like being a parent to this little kid, and her bringing life into his life, and just, it's so sweet, it's so emotional. I cried so damn much. I just love this author. Mitch Albom wrecks me every time, and yet every time he has a new book, I need it. He just conveys emotion in a way that no other author has yet for me. And then the book I am currently reading is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff, which I talked about in my October spooky TBR, so I'm gonna link that if you wanna check that out and see which books I'm hoping or planning or maybe reading during the month of October. I'm gonna do another wrap up at the end of that month, so you'll know which ones I actually did get around to. But yeah, that was my September reading month. As I said, I'm actually quite proud and impressed that I read so much. A lot of it was rather short and like graphic novels or manga, but still some really wonderful books in there. I really enjoyed it. I had a great reading month, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video. Let me know what you read in the month of September down below. Let me know if you've had any recommendations or if you've read anything that I read and what you thought of it. Thank you for watching. I hope you always have a reason to smile, and I shall see you soon. Bye!